She lived without love. Humanity showed her what she'd been missing. Zara 97 pressed her palm against the cold metal wall of Research Station Omega 7, feeling the vibrations of the massive engines through her fingers. The sensation meant nothing to her. Like everything else in her existence, it was simply data to be processed and filed away in the appropriate mental compartment. She had been created for one purpose: to serve the Veltar Empire as their most efficient xenobiologist. Her genetic modifications had stripped away what her creators called inefficiencies: the capacity for emotional attachment, the weakness of sentiment, the distraction of personal desires. She was perfect in their eyes, a being of pure logic and scientific precision. The research station orbited a small blue-green planet that the Veltar had marked for potential colonization. Zara's job was to catalog every life form, analyze their potential usefulness, and recommend whether the planet's current inhabitants should be relocated, enslaved, or eliminated. It was routine work that she performed with mechanical efficiency. Today's subjects were particularly interesting from a biological standpoint. The dominant species called themselves humans, and they possessed an unusual combination of intelligence and emotional complexity that defied easy categorization. Most sentient species that the Veltar encountered fell into predictable patterns. Either they were logic-driven like the Veltar themselves, or they were emotion-driven to the point of irrationality. Humans seemed to be both. Zara activated her workstation's main display, reviewing the data collected by the automated observation drones. The humans had developed impressive technology despite their relatively recent emergence as a spacefaring species. Their cities were architectural marvels that somehow managed to be both functional and aesthetically pleasing. Their art was complex and varied, expressing concepts that Zara's analytical mind struggled to quantify. But it was their social behaviors that truly puzzled her. She pulled up a recorded interaction between two humans in what appeared to be a medical facility. An elderly male lay in a bed connected to various monitoring devices, his biological functions clearly failing. Beside him sat a female of similar age, holding his hand and speaking in soft tones. "I love you," the female said, her voice trembling with what Zara's sensors identified as grief. "I've loved you for 60 years, and I'll love you always." The male's response was barely audible. "And I love you, Sarah. Thank you for sharing your life with me." Zara replayed the scene multiple times, analyzing every micro-expression, every vocal inflection. The concept they called love appeared to be some form of deep psychological bonding that persisted even in the face of inevitable loss. From a survival standpoint, it made no logical sense. The female was clearly experiencing significant emotional distress, yet she remained present, offering comfort to a mate who could provide no further evolutionary advantage. It was inefficient. It was irrational. It was completely contrary to everything Zara had been taught about optimal behavior. So why did she keep watching? She moved to another recording, this one showing a young human female cradling a small infant. The child was crying, disrupting the female's rest, demanding resources and attention with nothing to offer in return. Yet the female's expression was one of what the humans called joy. She sang to the infant in a melodious voice, her face radiant with an emotion that Zara's databases labeled as maternal love. "You're perfect," the female whispered to the crying infant. "Absolutely perfect, my little one. Mommy loves you so much." Again, Zara found herself confused by the human response. The infant was clearly not perfect by any objective measure. It was helpless, noisy, and completely dependent. Yet the female's attachment seemed genuine and profound. More puzzling still, Observation data showed that this same female would continue to care for and protect this offspring for years to come, often sacrificing her own comfort and resources in the process. Zara's genetic modifications should have prevented her from dwelling on such irrationalities. She should have simply noted the behavior pattern and moved on to more important data. Instead, she found herself running additional searches, looking for more examples of this love phenomenon. She discovered recordings of humans comforting strangers during disasters, sharing food with those who had none, risking their own lives to save others with no expectation of reward. She watched humans grieve for deceased pets, form lifelong friendships based on shared interests rather than mutual benefit, and create art that served no practical purpose except to express feelings. The more she observed, the more questions arose in her mind, questions that her conditioning told her were irrelevant and wasteful. What did it feel like to form such bonds? How did humans function with such powerful emotional attachments? Why did they choose connection over efficiency, sentiment over logic? Her contemplation was interrupted by an urgent alert from the station's communication array. A human vessel had entered the system's outer rim, broadcasting what appeared to be a peaceful greeting in multiple languages. The message was simple: "We come in friendship, seeking dialogue and understanding." Zara's training immediately kicked in. First contact situations were to be handled according to strict Veltar protocols. She should alert the military command, begin jamming the human communications, and prepare for either capture or elimination of the intruders. The humans had not yet detected the research station, giving the Veltar a significant tactical advantage. Her hand hovered over the alert button. Standard procedure was clear and logical. The humans represented a potential threat to Veltar interests, and threats were to be neutralized efficiently. But something made her hesitate. Instead of triggering the alert, Zara found herself accessing the station's translation protocols. The human message contained linguistic patterns she had studied extensively. She could respond if she chose to, opening a direct communication channel with the approaching vessel. Such an action would be a severe violation of protocol. It would compromise the station's secrecy and potentially endanger the entire Veltar operation. Her genetic modifications should have made such a choice impossible. Yet as she stared at the communication controls, Zara realized that something was changing within her. The countless hours of observing human emotional connections had triggered some kind of dormant capacity in her mind. The modifications that were supposed to eliminate her ability to feel were somehow becoming less effective. For the first time in her existence, Zara 97 was curious about something other than scientific data. She wanted to understand these humans on a level deeper than mere observation. She wanted to know what it would be like to communicate with them, to see if their capacity for connection might somehow extend to her. The approaching human ship continued its peaceful broadcast, unaware of the invisible observer studying their every move. In the depths of the research station, Zara faced a choice that would change everything she thought she knew about herself and her purpose. Her finger moved toward the communication controls, trembling with what she was beginning to recognize as her first genuine emotion: hope. Perhaps these humans could show her something that her creators had tried so hard to eliminate. Perhaps they could show her what she had been missing all her life. The decision would have to be made soon. The human vessel was moving closer, and delay would only make eventual contact more complicated. Zara took what humans might call a deep breath, though she had never needed to calm herself before this moment. Everything she had been taught told her to maintain her distance, to observe without interfering, to treat the humans as merely another species to be catalogued and conquered. But everything she had learned from watching them suggested a different possibility entirely. For the first time in her existence, Zara 97 was about to act on something other than logic and programming. She was about to reach out to these strange, emotional beings and discover what they might teach her about the thing they called love. Her finger pressed the transmission key, and across the void of space, her carefully crafted message began its journey toward the human vessel. This is Research Station Omega-7. We have been watching you, and I wish to learn more about your kind. The words felt strange and wonderful as they left her lips, carrying with them the first genuine choice she had ever made. Whatever happened next, Zara knew there would be no going back to her previous existence of cold, calculated observation. The humans were about to change everything she thought she knew about herself, and for the first time in her life, she welcomed that terrifying, beautiful possibility. She lived without love. Humanity showed her what she'd been missing. The response from the human vessel came faster than Zara had anticipated. The voice that crackled through her communication array was warm and distinctly female, carrying an inflection that her analysis programs identified as curiosity, mixed with cautious optimism. Research Station Omega-7. This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the exploration ship Harmony. Your message was unexpected, but we appreciate your openness. We're always eager to make peaceful contact with new civilizations. Would you be willing to meet in person? Zara's enhanced hearing picked up background chatter from the human bridge, multiple voices discussing scanner readings, tactical positions, and communication protocols. Yet underneath the professional military precision, she detected something else: excitement. These humans were genuinely thrilled at the prospect of meeting a new species despite the obvious risks involved. I must warn you, Zara transmitted back, her voice carefully modulated to hide her own growing uncertainty. I am not like the beings you may have encountered before. My people, they do not typically engage in peaceful dialogue. Captain Vasquez's response came without hesitation. We've learned that every species has individuals who choose their own path. You reached out to us when you didn't have to. That tells us something important about who you are, regardless of who your people might be. The concept struck Zara like a physical blow. Individual choice separate from species programming. The humans saw her as capable of independent decision-making, something the Veltar had specifically engineered out of her. Yet here she was, making choices that defied everything she had been designed to do. Over the next several hours, Zara found herself in constant communication with the human vessel. Captain Vasquez proved to be patient and genuinely interested in learning about Veltar culture, though Zara carefully avoided revealing the true nature of her mission. In return, the captain shared details about human society that went far beyond what Zara's observations had revealed. The thing about love, Captain Vasquez explained during one particularly meaningful exchange, is that it's not just between romantic partners or family members. It's a way of seeing value in others, of choosing to care about their well-being even when it costs us something. Every person on this ship is here because we love humanity enough to risk our lives exploring the unknown. Zara processed this information with growing fascination. Love as a motivating force for exploration and discovery. Love as a basis for cooperation between individuals with no genetic relationship. It was a completely foreign concept to someone raised in the efficiency-focused Veltar society. I do not understand, Zara admitted, surprising herself with the honesty. In my experience, cooperation occurs only when there is mutual benefit or hierarchical command structure. This love you describe seems to offer no logical advantage. Maybe that's exactly why it's so powerful, came the captain's thoughtful reply. When you care about someone beyond logic or advantage, when you choose to value them simply because they exist, that creates bonds stronger than any contract or command. It makes us willing to do extraordinary things, As if to demonstrate the point, Zara's sensors detected an unexpected development. A massive Veltar battlecruiser was approaching the system, responding to what must have been an automated distress signal from the research station. Zara realized with growing horror that her extended communication with the humans had triggered security protocols she hadn't even known existed. "Captain," she transmitted urgently, "you must leave this system immediately. A Veltar warship is approaching, and they will show no mercy to your vessel." The response revealed everything Zara needed to know about the difference between her people and these remarkable humans. Instead of immediately fleeing, Captain Vasquez asked, "What about you? Are you in danger for talking to us?" The question stopped Zara cold. In all her years of existence, no one had ever expressed concern for her personal safety. She was a tool, a resource, an asset to be utilized and maintained. The idea that someone she had just met would worry about her well-being was completely outside her experience. That is not relevant," she managed to say, though her voice betrayed her emotional confusion. "You must protect your crew." "That is logical." "Logic and love aren't mutually exclusive," the captain replied firmly. "We're not leaving without offering you the chance to come with us. Everyone deserves the freedom to choose their own path." Zara's mind reeled at the implications. Defection from the Veltar Empire was not just forbidden, it was considered impossible for someone with her genetic modifications. Yet the humans were offering her something she had never imagined possible: a choice about her own future. The battlecruiser was closing fast, and Zara could see its massive weapon arrays powering up. The human ship, Harmony, was impressive for their technology level, but it would last perhaps minutes against Veltar firepower. Unless... "Captain," Zara said suddenly, accessing her station's tactical systems, "I am transmitting the approach vectors and weapon specifications for the incoming vessel. Your ship cannot survive direct confrontation, but if you adjust your course to these coordinates and maintain these specific energy signatures, you can exploit blind spots in their sensor array." "Zara," the captain said, and something warm spread through her chest at the sound of her name spoken with such genuine care. "Are you sure about this? Once you help us, there's no going back." For a moment, Zara hesitated. Everything logical told her to maintain her cover, to allow the humans to be destroyed or captured, to continue her mission as designed. But then she remembered the elderly couple holding hands, the mother singing to her infant, the countless acts of love and sacrifice she had observed. "I have never been certain of anything in my life," she admitted, "but I have learned something from watching your species. Some choices are worth making even when they defy logic." What followed was the most intense hour of Zara's existence. She guided the human ship through a complex series of maneuvers, using her intimate knowledge of Veltar technology to exploit every possible weakness. When the battlecruiser finally detected their escape vector, Zara made a decision that surprised even herself. She activated the research station's self-destruct sequence. The explosion would buy the humans precious time while destroying all evidence of her research and observations. More importantly, it would send a clear message to the Veltar command structure. Their perfect, emotionless creation had chosen to sacrifice everything for strangers. As the escape pod ejected from the doomed station, Zara watched through the viewports as the human ship extended its docking bay. They were taking an enormous risk, bringing aboard someone they barely knew from a hostile species. But as she felt the gentle contact of the docking clamps, she realized that this was what love looked like in action. Captain Vasquez met her personally at the airlock, extending a hand in the traditional human greeting. Zara stared at the offered hand for a long moment, understanding intellectually that this was a gesture of welcome and acceptance. "Welcome aboard the Harmony. the captain said with a smile that Zara's analytical mind identified as genuine warmth. "We're honored to have you with us." As Zara reached out to take that offered hand, she felt something she had never experienced before. The gentle pressure of another being's touch, freely given without expectation of return. The warmth of skin against skin, carrying with it an unspoken promise of acceptance and protection. For the first time in her existence, Zara 97 understood what the humans had been trying to show her through all their inexplicable behaviors. Love was not inefficient or illogical. It was the force that made beings choose to be more than the sum of their programming, more than their basic survival instincts. It was what transformed existence into life. As the human ship jumped to faster-than-light speed, carrying them all to safety, Zara felt tears on her face. Another first in her carefully controlled existence. But these were not tears of sorrow or fear. They were tears of gratitude for the gift these remarkable beings had given her. They had shown her what she had been missing all her life. They had shown her that she was capable of love, both receiving it and giving it in return. And for the first time since her creation, Zara looked toward the future with something her genetic modifications were never supposed to allow: hope for what was yet to come. She lived without love. Humanity showed her what she'd been missing 6 months aboard the Harmony had transformed Zara in ways she never thought possible. What had begun as a clinical study of human behavior had become something far more profound, a complete reconstruction of her understanding of existence itself. The humans had welcomed her not as a refugee or a curiosity, but as a member of their community. Dr. Sarah Chen, the ship's xenobiologist, had become her closest friend and teacher, patiently explaining concepts that Zara's original programming had never allowed her to comprehend. Through Sarah, she learned that friendship was not about mutual benefit or shared objectives, but about genuine care for another's well-being. "You're learning to be human," Sarah had told her one day as they worked together in the ship's botanical gardens, tending to plants that served no practical purpose except to bring beauty and peace to the crew. "But I am not human," Zara had replied, though without the cold certainty that once marked all her statements. "Being human isn't about biology," Sarah had smiled, her hands gentle as she repotted a flowering vine. "It's about how you choose to connect with the universe around you. You've been learning that every day." Now, as Zara stood in the ship's observation deck watching the stars wheel by at faster-than-light speeds, she reflected on how completely her perspective had changed. Where once she saw only tactical data and resource allocation, she now saw beauty. Where once she calculated efficiency and survival odds, she now felt wonder and curiosity about what they might discover next. Captain Vasquez approached from behind, her footsteps deliberately audible so as not to startle. It was a small gesture of consideration that still amazed Zara, the human ability to be constantly aware of others' comfort and emotional state. "Penny for your thoughts?" the captain asked, using one of the human idioms that Zara had learned to appreciate. "I am thinking about my people," Zara replied honestly. "The Veltar Empire will not forget what I have done. They will continue their expansion, and eventually they will encounter other species like yours." The captain's expression grew serious. "We've been discussing that in the senior staff meetings. Your technical knowledge has been invaluable in helping us understand Veltar capabilities. But you seem troubled by something more than strategic concerns." Zara nodded slowly. "I have been thinking about others like me. Beings created to serve the Empire's purposes, modified to eliminate what the Veltar see as emotional weaknesses. They exist without ever knowing what they are missing, just as I did. And you want to help them," the captain said. It was not a question. The realization had been growing in Zara's mind for weeks. Every day aboard the Harmony had shown her new aspects of love and connection, She had watched the crew support each other through difficulties, celebrate each other's successes, and find joy in simple shared experiences. She had learned to participate in these connections herself, discovering capacities within her that her creators had never managed to completely suppress. But with this newfound understanding came a profound sense of responsibility. She was not the only Veltar who had been denied the chance to experience genuine emotion and connection. Across the Empire, there were thousands of others like her, beings programmed for efficiency but starved of the very experiences that made existence meaningful. "There is something I must show you," Zara said, leading the captain to her quarters. Over the months, Zara had been working on a project that combined her original scientific training with her new understanding of human nature. Using the ship's computer systems, she had created a detailed analysis of Veltar genetic modifications and their psychological effects. More importantly, she had developed theoretical protocols for reversing or working around these modifications. "This is incredible work," Captain Vasquez said as she reviewed Zara's research. "But implementing something like this would require direct contact with Veltar personnel. The risks would be enormous." "I know," Zara replied, "but I have been thinking about something Dr. Chen told me. She said that love often requires us to take risks for others, even when logic argues against it. The beings suffering under Veltar modification deserve the same chance I was given." The captain studied her carefully. "What exactly are you proposing?" Zara had been formulating this plan for weeks, inspired by countless observations of human courage and self-sacrifice. The Veltar Empire maintains several research facilities like the one I escaped from. These facilities house hundreds of modified beings like myself, all conducting surveillance and analysis of potential target species. If we could reach them— "You want to stage a rescue operation," the captain realized. "But even if we could somehow reach one of these facilities, there's no guarantee that other modified Veltar would respond the way you did." "There is no guarantee," Zara agreed. "But there is hope. And I have learned that hope is often enough to justify the attempt." The conversation that followed involved the entire senior crew of the Harmony. Dr. Chen argued passionately for the scientific value of understanding Veltar modification techniques. Commander Torres analyzed the tactical challenges of approaching a heavily defended research station. Engineer Martinez calculated the resources needed for a potential rescue operation. But it was the ship's chaplain, Father Rodriguez, who provided the perspective that ultimately swayed the debate. "We came out here to explore and make contact with new forms of life," he said quietly. "Zara has shown us that sometimes the most important contact we can make is not with a new species, but with individuals who have been denied the chance to be themselves." The mission they planned was unlike anything in human space exploration history. They would not be seeking new worlds or establishing trade relationships. Instead, they would be attempting to liberate beings who might not even understand that they needed liberation. Zara threw herself into the preparations with an intensity that sometimes worried her human friends. She analyzed Veltar security protocols, mapped facility layouts from memory, and developed communication strategies that might reach beyond the genetic modifications to awaken dormant emotional capacities. "You don't have to carry this burden alone," Sarah told her one evening as they worked late in the ship's laboratory. "We're in this together." The simple statement brought tears to Zara's eyes, an emotional response that still surprised her even after months of practice. "I used to think that individual capability was what mattered most," she said. "Now I understand that shared purpose and mutual support create possibilities that no single being could achieve alone." 3 weeks later, the Harmony dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of a system containing Veltar research facility Gamma 4. The facility orbited a gas giant, its sensors focused on monitoring a nearby star system where a promising species was developing early spaceflight capabilities. Zara's heart, a organ she was learning to trust as much as her brain, hammered as they approached. Inside that facility were 37 beings like her, genetically modified to serve the Empire's purposes, unaware that they were capable of so much more. The rescue operation that followed would become legendary in both human and, eventually, galactic history. Using her intimate knowledge of Veltar systems, Zara guided the Harmony through the facility's defenses. When they finally breached the research levels, she stood before beings who looked at her with the same empty, analytical gaze that had once been her own. "I am Zara 97, she announced to the assembled researchers. "I was once like you. I served the Empire without question, analyzing other species for conquest and exploitation. But I learned something that our creators tried to hide from us. We are capable of more than service. We are capable of connection, of care, of love." The response was initially hostile and confused. The modified beings could not immediately comprehend concepts that challenged their core programming, but Zara persisted, drawing on everything she had learned from her human friends about patience, compassion, and the gradual work of opening closed minds. One by one, she began to reach them, not through logical arguments, but through emotional appeals that touched dormant capacities in their modified genetics. She spoke of the beauty she had discovered in simple human kindness. She described the profound satisfaction of choosing to help others without expectation of reward. She shared the joy she had found in friendship and the wonder of discovering her own capacity for growth and change. The transformation was not immediate or universal. Some of the facility's residents remained locked in their conditioning, unable or unwilling to accept Zara's revelations. But others began to show the first flickers of genuine curiosity, the initial sparks of emotional awakening that Zara recognized from her own journey. When they finally departed the facility, 23 former Veltar researchers had chosen to join them. The Harmony was crowded and resources stretched thin, but the ship's crew welcomed their new passengers with characteristic human warmth. Over the months that followed, Zara watched as her rescued companions underwent the same transformation she had experienced. Each discovery of emotion and connection was like witnessing a miracle. Beings who had existed for decades without feeling genuine joy learned to laugh. Creatures designed for cold analysis began to create art and music expressing their newfound inner lives. The rescue mission became a movement. Word spread through underground networks of modified beings throughout the Veltar Empire. More facilities were approached. More beings were given the choice to discover their suppressed emotional capacity. Not all chose freedom, but enough did to create a growing community of former Veltar who had learned to embrace love over logic. Standing once again on the observation deck of the Harmony, now accompanied by several of her rescued friends, Zara reflected on the journey that had brought her to this moment. She thought of the elderly couple holding hands in their final moments together, the mother singing to her infant, the countless acts of human compassion that had awakened her to her own potential for connection. The Veltar Empire had created her to be a perfect observer, analyzing other species for conquest. Instead, she had become something they never intended: a bridge between worlds, a teacher of love, and proof that even the most rigid conditioning could not completely suppress the capacity for growth and change. Captain Vasquez approached, as she often did during these quiet moments of contemplation. But now she was not alone. Dr. Chen walked beside her, along with several of the rescued Veltar who had become integral members of the ship's community. "Thinking deep thoughts again?" the captain asked with affectionate humor. Zara smiled, an expression that had taken months to learn but now came naturally. "I am thinking about love," she said. how it spreads from one being to another, how it transforms not just individuals but entire communities. The humans taught me that love is not a weakness to be eliminated, but a strength to be celebrated. And now you're teaching others, Dr. Chen added proudly. The ripple effects of what we started here will continue spreading for generations. As Zara looked around at the diverse group of beings who had become her chosen family, she understood that her creators had been wrong about everything that mattered. Efficiency and logic were useful tools, but love was what made existence meaningful. Connection was not a distraction from purpose. It was purpose itself. The stars continued their ancient dance outside the observation windows, and somewhere among them were other beings waiting to discover what they had been missing. Zara had found her true calling, not in the cold analysis of potential conquest, but in the warm work of liberation and love. She had lived without love for so long that she had not even known she was missing something essential. But humanity had shown her the way, and now she would spend her life helping others find that same path, from emptiness to connection, from existence to truly living. The universe was vast and full of wonders, but none greater than the simple miracle of one being choosing to care for another. It was a lesson that would outlast empires and transform civilizations, spreading from heart to heart across the galaxy like stars being born in the cosmic dark.